Through the conference, we've heard many perspectives on decolonizing, and I would like to know what decolonizing looks like for Ukraine's domestic politics and policy. And from your perspectives, what is the most important policy area where decolonizing is necessary inside Ukraine? Have any steps towards the decolonizing process have been taken prior to full-scale invasion or since then? Have there been successful? And what do you think are the major obstacles or challenging for decolonizing in that area or not? And I'm asking you only for one policy. I wanted to ask 5, so thank Emily for curbing my enthusiasm. So we'll start in the order in which you are appearing in the program. So Alexei, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for a great possibility to be here, to all organizers, and for invitation. It's a big honor for me to be in Harvard and to take part in this conference, I think, which is very important. And I see so many people interested in, and that is absolutely fantastic. And I think that when we're usually when we're speaking about decolonizing of Ukraine, we're speaking about process of derussification, deimperialization, change of names of Ukrainian cities, streets. We're speaking about many things connected to the fact that for centuries, Ukraine was part of empires, different empires, not only Russian, but Austro-Hungarian and so on. So that was this is a usual context in which we speak. I think that after February 24, 2022, it's not any more interesting. What do I mean? I think that Ukraine showed to the world that we decolonized ourselves. We did it. That's the history of success. In general, I think that we have 2 wars. We're speaking about the Russian war against Ukraine. I would divide it in 2 wars. The first war for independence of Ukraine, or for decolonization, you can name, or another word. And this war is already won. We did it. It happened in February, March 2022. That was the moment when Ukrainian nation changed and the world changed its view on Ukrainian nation. And the most important, Ukrainians changed their view on themselves. That happened. Now we have the second war on territorial integrity of Ukraine. And we don't know how long will it last. But it's another part. We are not today, I'm sure, we can't, there is no chance for Putin to destroy Ukraine as it is, as he wanted 2 years ago. Exactly these days he was planning this attack. He failed. And that shows us that decolonization of Ukraine already happened. But when we're using the word colony, and we're speaking about colonization, usually, what we mean? We mean that it's the territory which is dependent. And people who live on this territory, they do not make decisions for themselves. There is a metropoly which influences. But I think also is very important part of the second part of decolonization process, which Ukrainians should go through. And we are on our way now. That is about Моя хата з краю. My house is a site. This is a famous Ukrainian proverb saying that, I deal with myself, or we can call it hutar, like a small village, hutaryanstvo, meaning that Ukrainians oftenly are seen as those who are having a great, their own house, they're making something in their house, they have a garden and so on, but they live they're saying, what's happening on the other side of the lake, it's not about me. On the other side of the pond is not about me. That is my home. That is my fortress. Everything is great here. What is there? I don't know. And I don't want to interfere. I think that is something we need to change. And that is something when Ukraine, just because of our standing on the map, because of the geopolitics, because of our neighbor, unfortunately, but we can't live like this. We need to forget this Моя хата з краю, and we need to become, so my house is a site. No, we are in the center of the world's geopolitics. We are in the center of the most important processes which are happening right now. And that means that we have these huge challenges, but also a big responsibility and big opportunities. That's something which we should acknowledge. And by this, to find our place. What are we giving to the world? What we want the world to see us, yeah, courageous, yes, independent, but what more? I believe that Ukraine should be the frontline unit of the free world. We have all possibilities for this. We showed our courage, we showed our commitment to the values which are important for the whole free world. And what is very important, we are ready to fight for it. I just came here last week. I was in the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. And there, I spoke with one European ambassador to Council of Europe. And this lady told to me, if our country would be attacked, we would surrender. That was said to me by ambassador, acting ambassador, not former, not expert, by acting ambassador of the country. She said, we would surrender. And that is something which Ukrainians are not doing and will never do. And that is so important. And that is something we can give to the world, and to show that we believe not only that we are independent on our land, but we also can influence the world around. I think this is very important, and this is the next step of decolonization of Ukraine, which we need to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So my next question is about responsibility. It is, who is responsible for decolonizing the society and politics? Is it an individual enterprise? Is this a matter of civil society? What role do government and parliament play? Is there room for local governments, or the so-called hromadas? So,
thank you. Very important question, but the answer is very easy. Everybody are responsible. I mean, there is no that somebody is responsible, you are not. That is, if we're saying it's a government responsible, it's the first sign that you are colonized. That's so easy, because like that is, what does it mean? You are not a colony. You are responsible for yourself. And if you want to be free, you want to be independent, you want to develop, do it. Do it. It's in your hands. And that's something just we definitely need to do. So I am representing the parliament. Do we need to do? Definitely. The laws which the parliament adopted, starting from decommunization, then deimperialization, starting like about history, about commemoration of dates, and many about the status of Ukrainian language, about many other things which the parliament already did. But we need to continue, 100% for sure. Then I said everybody should do their job. Like, I will give you one example. What, for example, I am doing now, and by the way, I am inviting all of you to join. On May 17-19, we will make in Odessa big Black Sea Security Forum. I think that is about what I started in my first answer. To start to see Ukraine as a wider picture. Not just Ukraine as Ukraine, but I don't know, maybe somebody from UN don't realize that the biggest city on the Black Sea shore is Odessa. There is no other bigger city, no in Romania, no in Turkey, no in Bulgaria, even not in Russia. No one. The biggest city of Black Sea is Odessa. The capital of the Black Sea is Odessa. The biggest ports in the Black Sea are ports of big Odessa. That is something which is our unique opportunity, and we need to develop it. But we don't have such events, for example, today in Odessa, and we want to make them. The next, I think it should be something happening in Lviv. The next should be something happening in Dnipro. Kharkiv today is very difficult because of security issues, but that also very important. But we need to start to show that the capital of the Black Sea is Ukrainian city Odessa. That is important. To make conference there, to take people there, to speak about worldwide issues, food security, energy security. It happened that the food security of the whole world is dependent from Odessa, from the Black Sea, and as from the times of ancient Greeks. The breadbasket of civilized world is the Black Sea and northern part of the Black Sea and Ukrainian territories and lands. That is important. We need to remind this. And that is important now because I think even Putin realized that he can't take Kiev, but still he wants to take Odessa. it's number one in his wish list from a number of reasons: geopolitical, economical, cultural, symbolical, historical, and others. But very easy to cut Ukraine from the sea, to reach Transnistria, to threaten Moldova. That's what is in his agenda. And we need to speak and we need to do it. So that's something which we are doing. One more thing you asked about Hromadas, you mentioned, that is also very important. When we're saying about, we also need to be frank. When we're saying about colonization, Russian Empire, and things like this, we should not forget that Ukraine is not like a textbook example of colony. Had never been. Never. Like Khrushchev was the leader of Soviet Union. Many others, many Ukrainians were a crucial part of Soviet elites, a crucial part. That's why Russian Empire is so desperate now. They just can't be empire without Ukraine. That's why they're attacking. Because a lot of the army, if you will take army and you will see who was the core of Soviet army, these were Ukrainians. The core of the people, of younger officers, these were Ukrainians. Who were the biggest and best engineers, who were making rockets, who were pushing science. All of these were Ukrainians. And we were part of this empire too. And we also received these perceptions. Like, for example, what is one of the characteristics of empire? Is a centralization, big centralization. And one thing was, I think, especially decolonizing. We're not speaking about it a lot, but very decolonizing thing was decentralization in Ukraine. When the cities, when the communities received their responsibilities, when they started to be independent in their decisions. And that's something which helped enormously to Ukraine after February 24, 2022. Because that is a war of Putin's vertical, imperial vertical, against Ukrainian horizontal. Between people, volunteering, communities, Hromadas, that was our strength. But that is a step, very big step that Ukraine made from being colonized mentally to being decolonized mentally. That was a decentralization process. Fortunately, as you said, and you hear, there are challenges. For example, today we have centralization process in Ukraine, which is, I think, definitely step in wrong direction. We need to decentralize, to secure this Ukrainian horizontal, to develop it. And that is the place for everybody. I'm finishing my answer. There is a place for everybody in this. For you, for me, we all should do our best. And by this, we will definitely achieve the goal. Thank you.
My next question is actually about Crimea. Once Crimea is liberated from the Russian occupation, what do you think are the steps that must be taken to preserve the process of decolonization, as we speak about it in general for Ukraine, while reintegrating Crimea into Ukraine? And what policies must the Ukrainian government pursue toward liberated Crimea then to ensure decolonization rather than recolonization?
I want to have several hours more. I have so many to reflect on and even to argue. But I think one thing is something which is important for us to keep it. Ukraine is so inclusive. And that is very important. And when I hear, why should I forget Russian language? I don't like the word should. Those who want to forget it, that's their right. Those who not. Why we should say that in Crimea we should prioritize this culture. We need to give all possibilities definitely for Crimean culture, Crimean Tatars culture, language, everything else. But I want to see Ukraine as much inclusive as possible. And that is something, because when you see this word should, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, this is empire. This is colonization. Because the metropolia says colony should do this. People there should do this. They should learn this language, they should speak this language, they should do this or that. I don't like this word. I want Ukraine to be inclusive as much as possible. And really, I want to tell you, I think there will not be big problems with the restoration of Ukrainian control over Crimea. I mean, speaking from not a military point of view, after it will be physically restored the control. Me, for example, I think much bigger problem will be with Donbass. That will be much bigger problem for us. And we need to speak about this. It's different things, but I will explain you just one thought, simple thought. Just imagine you're a boy in Donetsk. Now you're 18. 10 years ago, when Russia came, you were 8 years old. For 10 years, the only thing you know about Ukrainians is that they're killing you, your fathers, brothers, grandfathers, and so on and so on. There is a lot of blood between us, physically. Fortunately, it's not the case with Crimea. Also, Crimea is not devastated like Donbass is devastated. That is something we should remember. That is a very big challenge, and that will not disappear itself. We will need to work on this, and that will be a hard work. Not so hard as to destroy Russian Empire, but it will be a hard work. With Crimea, I think it will be easier with just understanding of inclusiveness of Ukrainians. That was always our strong point. Always. Because so many nations on Ukrainian territory felt themselves like at home. Always. And that is something we need to preserve, secure. This is our strength. Don't forget one more thing. We have demographical catastrophe in Ukraine today. Last year, 180,000 babies were born in Ukraine. In 1990, I think, it was 800,000 babies born. Just compare these numbers. Millions of Ukrainians are abroad. And with every day of war, less of them will come back. Let's be frank. Children are coming to the school. Ladies are finding spouses and opposite. Even all after our victory, Ukrainian lady which married German man or Polish man, they love Ukraine. They will come to babushka. They will have, but they probably will not move to Ukraine, their family. Somebody, yes, but not many. It will mean that Ukraine will need people. And that will be not only Ukrainians coming to Ukraine. Many different nations, we will need these people to come. And we will need to be inclusive, to take these people into Ukraine. That will be, after our victory, which I believe in, Ukraine will be a very different country from what it was before the invasion, from many points of view. And we need to realize this. And we can't take the patterns of Ukraine between 1991 and 2014 or 2022 and to say, we will continue. We couldn't. That will be a little bit, and not a little bit, different country. And we need to find these strengths. And we need to be inclusive. And we need, yes, to reintegrate. But once again, I don't think there will be big problems with reintegration of Crimea. That is a wonderful land, and that is a wonderful part of Ukraine. And I think that they will flourish, especially if Ukraine will feel itself not just as a country, sorry again, but I'm saying this, but as a regional leader. And for regional leader, Crimea will be essential. And that will mean a lot for Crimean people, no difference what nationality they are.
The question is the following, and it sort of feeds into a lot of themes that we have raised through the last 2 days and in this last panel as well. And so, as you say, one of the main goals of decolonization is regaining and reasserting the agency, Ukrainians' agency, that unique voice. And arguably, President Zelensky has this policy about nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. And this seems to me like a great manifestation of that decolonization in practice. So in your opinion, has Ukraine been successful in asserting its agency and its voice? Is the world listening? And what is one thing that everyone in this room can do to serve the goal of decolonization?
I think all we were speaking about here, that was about this, right? And definitely, I don't think that I need to repeat something of what I told. I want to tell you something different. We, all the time, we're speaking, and it's clear why. Because of our history, because of what's going on right now. When again, this zombie empire, Russian empire, came to kill us, to take us to observers because they need Ukrainians, because they can't without, and so on. But let us not forget one thing, that ending our dependence from Russia should not mean to become dependent from somebody else. That is something very important to remember. And when I hear, we have difficult debates in country. I think they will be more difficult in the nearest future about what's going on, how everything will continue, what is our strategy, and so on and so on. But when some people, for example, here in the United States of America, saying Ukraine should give up Crimea or Donbass or anything to Russia because to finish the war, I don't know. Oh, even not to give any land, but Ukraine should forget about NATO because Russia doesn't like it and we here are afraid. I'm sorry, what is the difference? Is it not a colonizing practice? What is this language about? How should anybody decide for Ukrainian people what to do? To join NATO, not to join NATO, to what to do with our territories, how to develop them. That's a hard decision, but only Ukrainians can make them. Only Ukrainians, that means to be decolonized. Oh, we can just from one story, we can come to another story. Yeah, maybe softer, maybe nicer, but still. So that is important for us to keep this our right for our own decisions and even our own mistakes. That's something we should go through. And yes, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. This should be very important for all of us because I see how many voices are raising about, and our allies, and the United States is our ally number one. And we are very thankful for all support we are receiving, but should also respect our right to make our decisions and to support us in our decisions, and also to fulfill their obligations. Because I just came, that's the finish of my visit to the United States. At the beginning of this week, I was in Washington, D.C., and I heard many disturbing voices and very bad things there. And I think that very quickly, a lot of people here forgot that to support Ukraine is not just a moral obligation. It's not just about charity or not charity. This is obligation of the United States of America, because in 1994, United States of America, together with Russia, took from us nuclear weaponry. And if we would have nuclear weaponry, never ever would any country attack us and destroy us and kill us like they're doing right now. They would not take Crimea, they would not take Donbass, nothing. We gave up our weaponry, we gave up our sword, and they said, except of this sword, we're giving you shield. This is our guarantees that you will be secure. Where are these guarantees? Where is the shield? Or if the United States word doesn't mean nothing in 30 years just, is it really a country other countries can rely on? Is this the country which wants to be a global leader? Isn't this just a right thing and honest thing to do? That's something we have all right to remember. We are suffering today because of decisions which were made 30 years ago. About Russia, everything is clear. But also it was United States of America which considered Ukraine to be unpredictable, and it's better to give nuclear weaponry to Russia to control all of these in one hand. And now Russia threatens United States of America and the whole world that they will destroy the world up to the rubbles with the nuclear weaponry and the weaponry they received from Ukraine also. And Ukraine is fighting for our values, fighting against Russia, which is clearly saying this is the war against Anglo-Saxons. Putin is saying this. It's not the war against Ukraine in his head. That's the war against Anglo-Saxons. He says it openly. And at the same time, many things are forgotten. That's something I think we have a right to raise our voice, to remind these things, and to secure our right to make our decisions and being supported in their decisions with our allies, if they're true allies.